Chapter 219. Did you just say Mount Hua? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bak Chan looked around. The people of the Nanmanbi's palace were approaching them. Can we handle this? Bak Chan thought about it for a moment, and then he realized that such worries were meaningless. The important thing was to not let it escalate into a fight. They hadn't come here to fight but to achieve their main objective. What are you doing? The man from the Nanmanbi's palace approached them and brushed past the children. After a while, he stood in front of the Mount Hua disciples. When he saw the sack of dumplings, he frowned. Who are you? We are merchants from the Peace Merchant Group. We saw that the children were hungry, so we were giving them some food. You were handing out food. The man's face was distorted. It was like he had heard some insult directed at him. Bak Chan titled his head. He really thought that it was strange. Why is he reacting like this? All they had done was to hand food to those who needed it. Shouldn't they be thanked? Even if they were angry, even if they didn't welcome outsiders, especially ones that did something like this, shouldn't they have been glad someone was giving out food? Do the people from the Central Plains think that the people of Yunnan are beggars? How dare you do such things? The man's face looked furious. This isn't any sort of medicine. Yunnan is devastated because of what you people did. And now you make fun of us by handing out food. Bak Chan didn't even think of hiding his expression. How did it get to this? Their hostility is beyond imagination. The man in front of them didn't seem ready to logically talk things out. So, he took the easy way out and bowed. I am sorry. We didn't think that far. Bak Chan bowed despite finding the whole situation distasteful. Come to think of it, even though we were giving out food to the children, it makes no sense that only a few adults showed up. Why would the hungry people not come? I should have taken into account the fact that the people of Yunnan do not like outsiders. They were too late to realize this, but he had to fix this now. Bak Chan spoke right away. November, LBJNN. I really do apologize. Bak Chan lowered himself even further and the man clicked his tongue. Where are you from? We are part of the Peace Merchant Group. Peace Merchant. After a moment of silence, the man smiled. I don't think I have ever seen you in their group. Bak Cheon's face became stiff. He hadn't thought for a moment about the possibility of the man knowing them. But it was impossible for the guards of Kunming to not know who was coming in and going from their city. So, Bak Chan chose the easiest answer. I am new to the group. Ah, is that so? Then all the ones with you must be new recruits too. Yes, that is true. You can check it with the merchant group. I see. The man smiled. So you mean to tell me that rookie merchants who came here to learn are actually doing charity work instead of learning? I see. You wanted to check it out. So, the man smiled. You will be fine with being held captive as long as we can check your identity, won't you? That is, if you truly are part of their group, you wouldn't mind. Yoon Jong's eyes went wide. The merchant group would obviously say they were their people. But the problem was, the Nanmanbi's palace guards already had doubts about the group. Of course. Ads by Pub Future. Bak Chan didn't drag it further and agreed to it. As Bak Chan nodded his head, the man had a strange expression and moved. You. Stop. At the same time, a voice that came from behind and spoke to them. Though they are the people of the Central Plains, they were giving food to the needy. So why don't we just listen to these people and just offer them some grace? I know, Se-hyung. Bak Chan sighed. It was nice to have someone take their side. And it was then, as if he had changed his mind, the man who turned around returned in a flash and pulled out the sword on his waist to the speed of lightning and drew it at Bak Chan. And Bak Chan reflexively pulled out his blade and blocked it. Kang. Even though the fierce attack was blocked, the man smiled. A warrior. That too, one that is good enough to block my blade, and yet you act like a merchant. Bak Chan bit his lip. Excuses wouldn't work anymore. They're suspicious. Catch them. Yes. Bak Chan backed away holding his sword. And the men of the Nanmanbi's palace who were present there slowly began to gather around them. Sasuk. What do we do? The only two choices they had was to either fight or run away. Damn it. Bak Chan gave strength to the hand holding his sword. Less than a day had passed and they had already been found out. They had underestimated Yunnan too much. At that time, Yoon Jong bowed his head with a sad face. I am sorry, Sasuk. Because of me. Don't apologize. But Bak Chan continued. We decided it together. So, we will all bear the responsibility together as well. It didn't matter if it was right or wrong. Bak Chan had given him permission and from that moment, it had become his sole responsibility. At that moment, he cried out. Fight. Sasuk. Joe Gould drew his sword and Yoon Jong put his hand on the side of his waist. Ah. I sold it. Yoon Jong's face turned white when he realized he didn't have his sword. Joe Gould looked at him and said, "Pick up a wooden stick from somewhere. Fists can be used too. Find a bloody wooden stick." He had learned the basics of fist martial arts, but how could he use that to deal with a blade? Chang Yang had told them that using their fists or any other close combat art was just part of the basics. He had said that they were to be used only when weapons weren't used. Bak Cheon's face went stiff when he realized that Yoon Jong was handicapped. "I don't think it will be easy." The pressure put on him from the guards was increasing and they were coming closer. It was said that the people of the Nanman Beast Palace weren't far behind the disciples of the 9 great sects. If that was true, then worrying was right. "Break through. Yoon Jong. Stay right behind me." "Yes, Sasok." Bak Chon pointed his sword ahead. The men there were laughing. "Do you think you can really get away? This is Yunnan. You have just 2 options left. One is to die here quickly while the other is to suffer and die slowly. Ads by Pub Future. I don't like either of them." As he said that, Bak Chon searched for a way out. For now, they had to get out of Kunming. They could think about the aftermath later. When Bak Chon looked back, the people laughed. "You are having vain dreams. I will show you what the Nanman Beast Palace is like. Attack them." As soon as the order was given, the guards rushed for them at once. "Move forward." "Yes, Sasok." Bak Chon clenched his teeth and ran ahead. He was charging at them. But before he could reach them, he saw a strange sight. Kwang! 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 With a huge noise, the men running towards them suddenly bounced back. What? Exclamation mark. Who is that? Bak Chon stood there and felt the hair rising on his body and the cold sweat running down his back. No. Who? Shit. He lowered his sword and in an incredibly quick motion, he turned around. He saw the devil standing in front of him. Who made this mess? The demon was, of course, their lovely saddle, Chang Yang. Chang Yang's head was tilted to the right. Bak Chon closed his eyes. He'd rather get caught by the guards than this man. Ah, the person who said it'd make an issue has ended up so doing so now. Damn it, how messed up does someone have to be to cause such a massive mess in less than half a day since coming to Kunming? That. Say something. Ugh. Sasok. At this point, I feel like it is my duty to go behind the backs of my Sehyungs. Ah. Bak Chon, Joe Gul and Yoon Jong trembled at it. Do you have no conscience even now? No, why did you have to pop up like a ghost at this time? You'd probably have an easier time making friends with those guards. This was bad. But even as they felt cornered, their expressions had loosened a bit. Still, since Chang Yang had come, they thought the situation would be cleared up to some extent. But that didn't last long. The gaze of Chang Yang turned to one certain place. Where in the fucking world did you sell the Plum Blossom sword? Yoon Jong shook his head trying to find the right answer. Unfortunately, unlike him, Joe Gould didn't think for long. A trader. Huh. The food trader. A food trader. Did you really sell it? Chang Yang looked at Yoon Jong and Joe Gould. No, you've done it now, hoo-hoo-ah. Seeing his gaze, they both bowed their heads. Actually, they could have explained it better if it was to someone other than Chang Yang. Forget the sect and get lost. Just get lost. It was funny that it was none other than the Nanman Beast Palace guards who ultimately saved the two from Chang Yang, who was becoming more and more furious. Who are you? Chang Yang looked at them as they shouted loudly. No, for real, who are you? How dare you shout at someone you're seeing for the first time? What kind of fucking bastard are you? Idiot. The guard's eyes went wide at the profanity. Get more out of your browsing experience without custom content. Get more out of your browsing experience without custom content. Discovery feed. Ads by Pub Future. What is he? That man. How could a person have such a reaction from just asking who he was? The guard was shocked rather than angry. Why you? Still, you are one messed up bastard. So, I will deal with you later. Chang Yang looked back at his Sehyungs. All 3 of them were looking at him, but they were constantly avoiding his gaze. And he looked at Bak Chon and said, Don't worry, Sasok. I have not created any trouble this time. We have made a mistake. Enough, stop rubbing it in, you idiot. Chang Yang smiled. I am talking about this situation here, but on the way here I had a conversation with someone. This isn't a place where we can do anything actually. What do you mean? We cannot help but talk to the Nanman Beast Palace about the purple wood grass. Really? The medical practitioner said that. What do we do? What do we do? Chang Yang smiled, raising his sheathed sword. After catching him, we should go to the palace and meet the people there. Isn't that the fastest way? Right, that's the fastest way to die. It is just another day in our life, don't be so obsessed with living for too long. Idiot, don't quote Buddha here. Ah, sorry. Chang Yang grinned and pulled out his sword. Okay, now. Chang Yang cracked his stiff neck and smiled as he looked at the guards. Are you going to meekly guide us to the palace? Or are we going to have to beat you to get that done? It was a situation where anyone would be angry, but the guards who had the highest status here didn't show much reaction. However, one person who was staring at Chang Yang asked, "You want to meet the Lord?" "Yes. And we need to just guide you." "Yes." He nodded his head. "You are a guest of Kunming after a long time, so we have to guide you." "Such a good man you are. Take the lead then." "Ah. The thing is, I can guide, but my way of guiding might be a little different from what you think." "Ah." It was then. Sounds could be heard from behind them. "Ah." Chang Yang turned his head to see dozens of people walking out from the alleys. "Ha ha. Seriously?" He smiled and turned his head as he looked at the dozens of Mammon Beast Palace guards appearing from the other side. "Ah, this looks like a lot. Today's training is." The appearance of so many people. The people walked out of alleys, shops, and some even came out of walls too. Coming out of the ground should NT be too shocking at this point. Fortunately, they didn't come from there. Seeing so many people come, even Chang Yang's expression faltered. "Ah, so you will guide us?" "Of course." The man smiled. "Because we've been taught to keep the intruder alive and then lead him to the palace lord." "Ah, is that so?" Chang Yang looked at his Sehyungs as if it was a good thing and said, "They're saying they will take us there." "They aren't taking us there, but catching and presenting us, you bastard." Chapter 220. Did you just say Mount Hua? 5. How was your morning? Hyun Jong smiled at Hyun Sang's concerned question. "I couldn't sleep well." "Because of the children?" "Yes." Hyun Jong sighed. "I can't be at peace after sending out our children to remote and difficult places. I know that the children are strong as Hyun Young said, and that this is the path Mount Hua has to take, but the human heart has a mind of its own. If the will of a human can do wonders alone, why would one need a heart?" "Right that." Hyun Jong couldn't hide his bitterness. "I cannot properly lead the children like I should because we don't have enough strength." This was the last wish that Hyun Jong had. Mount Hua was developing extremely fast with Chang Young's help, but the driving force for that development was the children. The fact that Hyun Jong couldn't develop and lead the children of Mount Hua into adults and his inability to provide him a shoulder to lean on for support made him sad frequently. Hyun Sang spoke in a firm manner. "Sect leader, believe in our children. N-O-V-E-J-N.C. Hyun Jong turned around and Hyun Sang smiled as he continued. "Didn't Hyun Yang tell us? The children are better than us." I don't think he was wrong when he said that. It felt absurd when he said it, but in retrospect to him they proved themselves enough. Yes, they have. What we need to do is give the children a solid foundation and a home to come back to. Hyun Jong nodded but his face couldn't smile. "But I am worried. It is their first time going so far away." It was then. As sect leader. From the other side, Pyongyang was running towards him with his eyes wide open. "You're running around like a boar as if we have some work so early in the morning." Huge. Sect leader. Something huge. Huge tilde. It is a real big deal. Hyun Jong's face became serious. Pyongyang could have acted out once or twice, but he wasn't the kind of person to behave like this without reason. And for him to fuss like this must mean that something huge had really happened. What happened? Try to explain so we can understand as well. Tang. Tang family. Tang family. Tang family lord. The lord of Tang family is in front of our gates. Hyun Jong's eyes went wide as he heard the unexpected news. Who? Who did you say has come? The lord of the Sichuan Tang family has come to see the sect leader of Mount Hua. Tang family lord. Why has he come so suddenly? Hurry. Yes. This isn't the time to think. Hyun Jong quickly moved his feet. As soon as he ran to the gate, he saw Tang Gunak and bowed to the man. Or at least he tried to. Before he could do that, the man in front of him clasped his hands together and bowed to him. Lord Tang Gunak of the Sichuan Tang family greets the sect leader of Mount Hua. Hyun Jong flinched as The fact that Hyun-jong couldn't develop and lead the children of Mount Hua into adults, and his inability to provide him a shoulder to lean on for support made him sad frequently. Hyun-sang spoke in a firm manner. Sect leader, believe in our children. N-O-V-E-L-B-J-N.C. Hyun-jong turned around and Hyun-sang smiled as he continued. Didn't Hyun-young tell us? The children are better than us. I don't think he was wrong when he said that. It felt absurd when he said it, but in retrospect haven't they proved themselves enough? Yes, they have. What we need to do is give the children a solid foundation and a home to come back to. Hyun-jong nodded, but his face couldn't smile. But I am worried. It is their first time going so far away. It was then. As sect leader. From the other side, Hyun-young was running towards him with his eyes wide open. You are running around like a boar as if we have some work so early in the morning. Huge. Sect leader. Something huge. Huge tilde. It is a real big deal. Hyun-jong's face became serious. Hyun-young could have acted out once or twice, but he wasn't the kind of person to behave like this without reason. And for him to fuss like this must mean that something huge had really happened. What happened? Try to explain so we can understand as well. Tang. Tang family. Tang family. Tang family lord. The lord of Tang family is in front of our gates. Hyun-jong's eyes went wide as he heard the unexpected news. Who? Who did you say has come? The lord of the Sichuan Tang family has come to see the sect leader of Mount Hua. Tang family lord. Why has he come so suddenly? Hurry. Yes. This isn't the time to think. Hyun-jong quickly moved his feet. As soon as he ran to the gate, he saw Tang Gunak and bowed to the man. Or at least he tried to. Before he could do that, the man in front of him clasped his hands together and bowed to him. Lord Tang Gunak of the Sichuan Tang family greets the sect leader of Mount Hua. Hyun-jong flinched as he heard that and opened his mouth. The lord of the Sichuan Tang family. Such an individual wasn't even a little bit inferior to Hyun-jong. Even if it had been the Mount Hua of the past, the lord of the Tang family had been stronger than him, but the present Mount Hua couldn't be remotely compared to them. How could the present Mount Hua, which had been thrown out of the 9 great sects, one union even be on par with the Tang family? There was no way Tang Gunak was unaware of that, so why was he being so respectful and polite to Hyun-jong? It was when Hyun-jong was at a loss of what he had to do that he felt Hyun-young poke him with a finger. Hyun-jong immediately came to his senses and bowed. Hyun-jong, the oldest living member of the Mount-hua-sect, greets the lord of the great Sichuan Tang family. When they both finished greeting him, Tang Gunak raised his head with a light smile. Ads by Pub Future. Nice to meet you. Sect leader, please don't hate us for coming without informing first. What are you saying? The head of the Sichuan Tang family has directly come. We are way too surprised. Thank you for looking at us so kindly. But, what is it? Tang Gunak looked at Hyun-jong and said. The disciples of Mount Hua came to the Tang family. The Tang family was favored by them, and we have decided to form a friendship with the sect. So of course, we had to come and visit Mount Hua to discuss our future, right? A friend. Friend. A friend. Chung Young made friends with the Tang family. Hyun-jong looked at Tang Gunak with a puzzled expression. The word friend was used where the word alliance should have been used. In that case, it would mean that the Tang family wanted an alliance with Mount Hua. Why would? Hyun-young stabbed him again. Hyun-jong felt lost at the unexpected turn of events, so Hyun-young took the lead. It isn't polite to let our guest stand near the gate. I will guide him to the guest house. Right. Guest house. The guest house. We have one. Tang Gunak smiled brightly. Sect leader, you don't have to be so shocked. We came here because we really wanted to build a good relationship with Mount Hua. There is no hidden reason. Tang Gunak turned to the side. So-so, greet them. Tang So-so bowed her head at the elders. Tang So-so, the daughter of the Sichuan Tang family, greets the sect leader of Mount Hua. This child of the Sichuan Tang family wishes to enter Mount Hua. Join us. Why would you? Confusion and bewilderment flashed through Hyun-jong's face. And Tang Gunak said, She is my daughter. Why is your daughter saying this? A voice mixed with laughter entered the ears of Hyun Jong, who couldn't keep up with this situation. If it's like this, Chung Myung must have done something again. Exactly. Ah. Hearing the words of Hyun Young and Tang Gunak, Hyun Jong nodded his head. If there was something that one couldn't understand in Mount Hua, simply inserting the two words Chung Myung would clear up everything. Well, discuss the details inside. Yes. This way, please. Hyun Young guided him inside in a polite manner. Hyun Jong, however, couldn't speak until Tang Gunak had moved to the guest house far away. Seeing that, Hyun Sang spoke with a laugh. See that? What did I tell you about our children? Didn't I say they would do well? They seem to be doing well in Yunnan. How can we think of them as normal kids? At the proud words, Hyun Jong had to agree. Right. That is true. His gaze moved to the south. The disciples of Mount Hua were somewhere on that side. They must be well. They have to be. Ah. There are children after all. Hyun Jong's voice was filled with great joy. Asterisk. Rattle. Rattle. Shake, shake. See what personalized content we have based on your browsing history. See what personalized content we have based on your browsing history. Discovery feed. Ads by PubFuture. Chung Myung lay on his back and spoke. Ah, it has been a while since I've had it this easy. We should have done this sooner. Sasuk, you should lay down too. This is so freaking comfortable. But Bak Chon just stared at Chung Myung. What is going on inside the bastard's head? Bak Chon sometimes felt a great urge to split open Chung Myung's head and see what was happening inside. Chung Myung. Ah. Is it fine? Why? This is so comfortable. Well, just let them take us to where we want to go. Comfortable? Let them take us. Bak Chon looked around. He saw vast land with numerous mountains around them. The huge rocks truly were magnificent, until his eyes rested on the window of the wooden grate they were in. Moo. And the cow which was dragging it was mooing loudly. The disciples of Mount Hua, along with Chung Myung, were being taken to the Nanman Beast Palace after being imprisoned in this wooden grate prison. But what did he say? This is comfortable for him. Bak Chon sighed. Chung Myung. Shouldn't you feel a sense of crisis? Crisis? Chung Myung smiled and clasped his hands. Do you have some other plan? If we want the purple wooden grass, we need to get in contact with the Nanman Beast Palace. If they don't allow it, no one will speak about it. Right. Then the best way to get the grass is to meet them like this. True. Then this is the fastest way. That is the problem, you rotten idiot. Bak Chon screamed and ran for Chung Myung, and the wooden floor made a huge noise. Thud. Thud. The guards who were next to it hit the bars. Just be quiet, will you? Ugh. Bak Chon reluctantly sat down, and the guard clicked his tongue. These people, what are these people? They are acting so shamelessly despite being caught. It is my first time seeing such crazy people from the Central Plains. Just leave them alone. They'll all turn sane when we take them to the Lord. Chung Myung poked his head through the wooden bars. Mister. What is it again? How much longer will it take? Ha. The guard glanced at Chung Myung with an absurd look on his face. Does he think that this is a passenger carriage? You seem to have a wish to be punished soon. We will arrive there soon. Chung Myung, who heard the answer, sat down and nodded. Seeing that, Jo Gul sighed and Yu Yisael sat cross-legged with an expressionless face as usual. When did Sego get caught? I was right behind you people. You have no presence at all. But they still caught you. If you have something like a skill that lets you hide your presence, you should use it for good. Why do you always follow people and scare them? Exclamation mark. Ads by PubFuture. Aren't I bound to get caught at some point if I do that? Ah, right. Chung Myung shook his head. Yoon Jong, who saw him doing that, looked like the world had collapsed. Chung Myung tilted his head as he noticed it. What is with him? Despite the fact that I've repeatedly denied it, he seems to think that we were caught because of him. We were caught, that is the end of the story. Why waste your time thinking about that? You should really not talk about such things this easily. Bak Chon, who was angry, yelled, and Chung Myung just smiled as he looked at Yoon Jong. Yoon Jong Sehyung. Yes. Good intentions do not always lead to good results. There are plenty of people in the world who make a lot of their decisions with good intentions and suffer for a long time because of it, people who never get rewarded. At that moment, Yoon Jong lifted his head and little by little his eyes began to turn normal. Chung Myung continued. But that doesn't mean that the intentions themselves should be abandoned. Did Sehyung do it with the hope of being rewarded? No. It wasn't that. Then pull in your stomach and stand tall. What you did wasn't wrong. I get what you mean. Yoon Jong nodded his head and Chung Myung looked up at the sky. Right. My sect leader Sehyung. Mount Hua had sacrificed itself for the world. But no one had noticed nor remembered, and they even tried to bite the hand that had fed them. Then, was everything that Mount Hua did a huge mistake? No. It wasn't that. Even if Chung Myung thought of it that way, his Sehyungs and Sajays in his past life probably would have had no regrets about what they did. If Chung Myung and the Mount-Hua-sect hadn't stopped the heavenly demon, not only Mount Hua, but most of the righteous sects would have vanished completely. And now, Chung Myung was working hard to prevent something like that happening in the future. Just thinking about it makes me angry. You make the accidents and create troubles. And I'll have to do the repair work. Curse at them and I'll hit you. Kuak. Chung Myung sighed. While trying to comfort Yoon Jong, Chung Myung was hit by his past memories. Who will curse whom? And Bak Chon glanced around. Wouldn't it be better to escape now? We can break these wooden bars for sure. And what do we do after escaping? That. We need to get that grass into our hands, and this is the quickest way to do it. How many times do I have to tell you the same thing? Okay. Bak Chon sighed. At that time, Jo Gul, who had been silent until then, suddenly pointed to one direction. Chung Myung, there. Ah. Looking at the place he pointed, Chung Myung saw a large engraving. Oh. The scenery of the pavilion in front of them was different from the Yunnan they had seen so far. Behind the huge pavilion, a dense forest stretched out. It seemed as if not even a single ray of light could penetrate the thick canopy. It was different from the barren fields they had seen. This is the Nanman Beast Palace. Bak Chon looked around with tense eyes. It was as if the true weight of the name seeped into their minds after seeing the pavilion. Moreover, aren't they in a situation where they had already been caught? Looking at the pavilion, they could clearly feel the majestic power of the Nanman Beast Palace. Ah. It looks like they have some money left. How can you jump to that conclusion in this situation? In this situation. You rotten bastard. Chapter 221. Did you just say Mount Hua? 6. Chung Myung, who had been silent for a while, lifted his head. Mister, I have something I am curious about. Seriously, what are you? Looking at Chung Myung, the guard was stunned. You said it was your first time seeing people like us. No. It is just my first time seeing someone like you. No. This is the first time you're meeting me, and how dare you talk to me like this? Anyway. So, has there been a person from the Central Plains whom you've taken to the palace before us? You are asking such obvious things. What happened to them? The guard smiled. Have you ever heard of someone getting released after getting caught by us? No. You seem to know well. Then why are you asking? N-O, vel, B, in.c, om. Chung Myung shook his head and then looked back. See that? It looks like everyone was probably killed. Please shut that mouth, Chung Myung. The disciples of Mount Hua just wanted to enter the palace immediately at this point. Being locked up in such a small place with Chung Myung was horrible punishment. Unfortunately, their wish came true. Open the gate. The front gate opened wide and the cart carrying him entered the palace through the gate. Wow. The disciples of Mount Hua shed a sigh of relief. Numerous warriors were lined up in the wide place. And around them, there were wild beasts prowling all around. The sight of humans and beasts living in harmony gave them a strange feeling. It was something that they hadn't experienced before. Isn't that a tiger? What kind of sane man will sit on a tiger? And isn't that a snake? Why would someone have a snake around their neck? Bak Chan rolled his eyes. He had heard that the Nanman Beast Palace used wild beasts, but to live so comfortably with real beasts like these. Besides, the wild beasts here were twice as large as the ones they were familiar with. Don't be so surprised. One of the guards spoke coldly. Because soon, we will feed you to one of those children. Why hadn't those words sounded strange? We will be fed. Ah, fed. So they don't get hungry, right? Chung Myung smiled. This is such a fun sight. If I had known this was the case, I would have visited the palace in advance. He wondered if he had wandered around the Central Plains too much in his previous life. Even while they were looking around, the guards gathered one after another. From the few dozen in the beginning, now there were hundreds of them. And the guards who had brought them here handed him over to the soldiers. Ads by Pub Future. There was no way that all the people of the palace who were responsible for looking after Yunnan had gathered here. That meant that the people here didn't represent the full power of the palace. Considering that, they could imagine how huge the power of the Nanman Beast Palace was. As expected, Bak Cheon's face went stiff. Regardless of how strong each soldier here was, it was remarkable that there were so many people who had learned martial arts here. Even the Shaolin sect probably wouldn't have these many warrior monks. The cow, that became frightened at the sight of all the wild beasts, halted. And the guard opened the locked door of the cart and pulled out the disciples of Mount Hua. He then proceeded to drag them into the middle of the ground. Ah, hold me gently. You'll break my wrist. When Chung Myung yelled that, the guard who was dragging him thought he was dealing with a crazy man. It is the first time I have seen a guy who isn't afraid of death. Do you have anything called emotions? Emotions? What about them? Do you know what my character is like? Wouldn't it be better to not know? Hick. As the guard continued to pull, the person behind him spoke coldly. Stop it. The palace lord will arrive soon. The guard shuddered at the word of his comrade. This reaction alone made it clear exactly how fearful their palace lord was. They dragged Chung Myung and his party to the center. Then they went back to their own groups and stood in perfect formations. They didn't take away their weapons, nor did they tie them up. What will they do if we run? They're inviting us to do it. Through their actions, they're asking us whether we're confident enough to cross the vast land of Yunnan and re-enter Sichuan, avoiding all their eyes. Right. It would take them at least 10 days to go back the way they had come from, and escaping from the guards of the Nanman Beast Palace was no easy feat. And it doesn't seem like it'll be easy for us at all. Everyone here, they're all stronger than you think. The disciples of Mount Hua looked around with tense eyes. They observed the copper-colored armor on the bodies of the guards and their tightly covered muscles. They noticed their intense eyes. Contrary to the freedom one would feel from the name of the Nanman Beast Palace, everyone here seemed like a dignified soldier. That alone was daunting enough, but the wild beasts that roamed freely among them would occasionally show them their teeth and scare them. The sharp teeth of a tiger showed how wild it was. If we put that tiger in the Central Plains, you could easily imagine people calling it Mountain God, right? I am sure that it isn't a tiger. A bird the size of a man has been flying above us for a while now. I had no idea about that. But why is there a snake around his neck? Something felt odd. It wasn't like the enemy was strong enough to corner them completely. But the anxiety of facing something unknown took over them. The intensity of this weird feeling they felt here was incomparable to when they were in Yunnan and Kunming. Being here felt like they were in another world. And in that moment, Ka. With a sharp sound, a white object flew past them at the speed of lightning. What? Core WWW. The rushing object stopped just a step ahead of them. It was a marten that had pure white fur. And it seemed to be threatening them, looking at its hair standing up. Is that a spirit animal? It looks like a cat. Check out our recommendations curated just for you. Check out our recommendations curated just for you. Discovery feed. Ads by Pub Future. What? Everyone looked at Chung Myung. Does this bastard not use his eyes? TCH. Come here. TCH. Don't do it. It'll bite your finger off. When Chung Myung squatted down and reached for the ferocious marten, Yoon Jong and Jo Gul tried to stop him. But Chung Myung was calm. Why? It is such a good listener. So kind. Ah! Jo Gul and Yoon Jong rubbed their eyes. The white marten, which had its hair up until a second ago, was now licking Chung Myung's finger and was being embraced by him. It was like it was playing with him. It is docile. What do you feel? With the way the animal was wagging its tail, it was now looking cute. Seems like a real spirit animal. It definitely must be precious. Even if it isn't presently, it is definitely a Chapter 222. How come you don't know that? 1. Boong. Boong. The sound of battle horns echoed throughout the palace. Delightful. The people of the palace were holding instruments on either side and playing them with smiles on their faces. And in the square where they had previously been, there were now dancers in loose clothing jumping around. Bak Chon lowered his head. Seafood kept piling up in front of him, and each plate had dishes he had never even heard of. But the one thing they all had in common was that everything looked extremely delicious. Regardless of the scent or the color, he was seeing each and every one of these dishes for the first time in his life. Buried in the cacophony of the melody, Bak Chon looked around with a blank face. Delightful. The people of the palace were holding instruments on either side and playing them with smiles on their faces. And in the square where they had previously been, there were now dancers in loose clothing jumping around. Bak Chon lowered his head. Seafood kept piling up in front of him, and each plate had dishes he had never even heard of. But the one thing they all had in common was that everything looked extremely delicious. Regardless of the scent or the color, he was seeing each and every one of these dishes for the first time in his life. The food seemed to be screaming, "I have a great cook." He glanced around and saw the others looking as lost and clueless as he was. That's pretty obvious. If Bak Chon himself couldn't understand it, how could the others understand what was happening? As if their thoughts were regarded to be irrelevant, loud laughter could be heard from the other side. Ha ha ha. Eat a lot. Eat more. We weren't sure if the food of Yunnan would suit you at first. The palace lord laughed again. With each laugh, their ears trembled. Bak Chon pressed his finger into his ear to check whether his ears had started bleeding. Fortunately, he didn't see blood. I have always wanted to visit Mount Hua. But I could not go to the central fields, so I had to wait patiently for an opportunity that allowed me to do so. But the disciples on Mount Hua and the descendant of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint have come here in person. This is the happiest day of my life. Oh my. Bring me alcohol. Yes, my lord. Peach extract. Bring out the peach extract. I need to treat the guests properly. Yes, my lord. Some of the attendants rushed out of the room as soon as the order was given. The palace lord chuckled and looked at the disciples of Mount Hua in delight. However, the whole situation made the disciples of Mount Hua very uneasy. I cannot even look at his eyes because of how scared I am. Why is everything so big here? Even the people are big. Why is his head that big? Since they were all sitting together, they realized how huge the people of this place were. Although they had strong bodies due to Chung Young's training, they felt like they were all 3-year-old infants whose bodies could be crushed by anyone present here at any moment. Ha 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 ha. Seeing him, the palace lord burst into laughter. Looking at the muscles that would pulsate along with each laugh, the disciples couldn't even hold their chopsticks properly. Can I really eat all of this? Well, all of the disciples except for one person. You are asking such a natural thing. They have all been prepared for you. Is the peach extract you talked about that delicious? It is the best drink in Yunnan. It isn't normally served to outsiders, however. Since only a small amount is brewed each time, it is a special drink reserved for special occasions, even for us. You can feel a heavenly scent each time you smell it. Hey he. Chung Young laughed like he was enjoying it. He calmly raised his chopsticks and began to gorge down the food. Ah, this tastes quite unique. It is kind of strangely sweet but also spicy. Everyone, try it. Do you even care about this situation we are in? They had thought that they understood Chung Young to some extent. The disciples of Mount Hua, who collectively realized that their standards of appraising this man were too absurd, shook their heads. They could never understand this guy. In the meantime, the drink was served. They were served the drink in 5 pure white jade bottles. You people. Didn't I tell you to bring the peach extracts? It is the peach extract, my lord. Ads by Pub Future. I meant all of them. Are you trying to disgrace me in front of the descendants of the great Plum Blossom Sword Saint? Do I need to cut off the veins in your throat to bring you back to your senses? But then they'll die. How would one get back their senses when they're dead? However, the man just bowed, and the palace lord yelled. Bring 'em all right now. Yes, lord. Right now. Yes, palace lord. The Nanman Beast palace lord looked at the servant with a frown and then turned his head at the disciples of Mount Hua. Suddenly there was a soft smile on his previously wrathful face. This is embarrassing. Guests of the Central Plains, please don't hate us too much. Ah. What are you saying? You have given us food and drinks. You are such nice people. Ha ha ha. I am a little temperamental too. Ha 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 ha. The disciples of Mount Hua looked at the two with puzzled faces. What is all this? They had seen Chung Young speak to many different people many different times, but it was their first time seeing him get along with an old man like this. Here. Let's have a glass. The palace lord gave Chung Young a drink. The other person was just holding the bottle with one hand instead of two. And it was understandable why the lord was angry at the sight of 5 bottles. They simply wouldn't be enough for him. Pour. He filled the cups of all the disciples with the peach extract. In an instant, its rich flavor hit their noses. Ha ha ha. Come on, take it. The disciples bowed their heads lightly to show their gratitude and drank it. As soon as they did, everyone looked shocked. Wow. Oh my. They couldn't speak much after having it. Is it good? The name you have is perfect for it. Ah. You. Your young friend is a good talker. He knows how to make people feel good. The man patted Bak Chon on the back with his huge hand. Cook. Cook. Bak Chon felt his body turn into jelly. It was a hand that was patting him, but it felt like he was being hit by a horse carriage. Bak Chon genuinely thought that his intestines would pop out. Ha ha ha. To think that there would be such a day. To meet the descendants of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint. Joe Gul, who heard it, opened his mouth wide. But, it is a bit weird. Is the Plum Blossom Sword Saint famous in Yunnan? What? The palace lord's eyes shone with a dangerous light despite the smile on his face. In Yunnan? What does that mean? Isn't the Plum Blossom Sword Saint a hero of this world? Ha! When Joe Gul asked his question, the man just asked something else again, unable to understand the reaction. No, then you are saying that the people of the Central Plains do not know of the 5 heroes who eliminated the demonic sect. 5 heroes. This is my first time hearing about such a thing. What? The palace lord yelled out loud in shock, and everyone covered their ears. Ads by Pub Future. Why does a person from the Central Plains not know about the 5 heroes who eliminated the demonic sect? Without them, Yunnan and the Central Plains would have been full of the demonic bastards. Does this mean you people in the Central Plains do not even know about the grace the 5 heroes bestowed upon us? The palace lord screamed in anger. The force emanating from his body made the disciples of Mount Hua go stiff. It felt like a mountain had popped up in front of them, and Chang Myung, who was savoring the alcohol, said, "Ah. Why are you mad at the kids?" Right. I cannot be angry at the descendants of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint." The palace lord laughed and smiled. "So, you are saying that you do not know of that?" "Yes. How can you not know the 5 heroes who made the most brilliant achievement in the war against the demonic sect? Then, how did you think the demonic sect bastards were defeated? Everyone in the Central Plains united. Those sympathy rip-off bastards. Those crumpled old idiots. Wow. Calm down. Right. It isn't your fault." Bak Chon closed his eyes. In this world, there were normal people, Chang Myung and people like Chang Myung. The problem now was that 2 of the latter were in the same place. This is hell. At least it feels like it. The Nanman Beast Palace Lord, who thought for a moment, clicked his tongue. 5 heroes who eliminated the demonic sect refers to the 5 heroes who showed the most dazzling form in the terrible war against the demonic sect. One of them is the Plum Blossom Sword Saint, your ancestor, and the other one was Throwing Daggers Tang Bo of the Sichuan Tang family, who was his close friend. The remaining 3. The man frowned and said, "I don't know who they are." "Ah. What was that?" At the beginning, the title of the 5 heroes was nothing more than a makeshift title made by people who were jealous of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint's bravery. So, they made it look like a collective effort. Therefore, you only need to remember the names of these 2 people. The man spoke proudly. The Plum Blossom Sword Saint defeated the demonic sect. Goosebumps rose on the skin of the disciples as they heard that. They had never thought that they would hear this from anyone other than someone from Mount Hua. No, they never heard it even in Mount Hua. A moment of great emotion came over them. Ahum. Bak Chon titled his head. Why? Why is that idiot puffing up his chest? What is with that face? Why do you look so happy? The other disciples were looking at the palace lord, so they didn't see the expression on Chang Myung's face. The Plum Blossom Sword Saint did. Are you saying you don't know about this? We did hear that he was one of the best masters in the world and that he had done a great job during the war too. But it was just that. What? One of the best masters? You idiot. The palace lord looked furious again. What kind of madman would refer to the Plum Blossom Sword Saint as one of the best? He was the best in the world. Even those demonic bastards used to run with their tails between their legs at the mention of his name. How dare people refer to him with such low titles? Ahum. Chang Myung. I will hit you. But, why do you keep doing that? Everyone in the world was saved by him. Even outside Yunnan. When those cruel demonic sect people came for Yunnan, the damned Central Plain bastards changed their attitude and turned away from us. We ended up on the brink of extinction. But thanks to the Plum Blossom Sword Saint, the demonic bastards who had been eyeing Yunnan retreated. Ah. Bak Chon nodded his head. After listening to this, he could understand why the Nanman Beast Palace and the other sects of Yunnan were hostile to the Central Plains and friendly to Plum Blossom Sword Saint. And it isn't that. It was the Plum Blossom Sword Saint who came all the way to Sichuan and annihilated those bastards. And when they divided and tried to attack Yunnan, he protected Yunnan as well. Oh. Get ready for more personalized recommendations here. Get ready for more personalized recommendations here. Discovery feed. Ads by PubFuture. If it weren't for him, the Nanman Beast Palace would have been destroyed long ago. So how could we not favor him? To see Sichuan appear from among those wicked people was like seeing a dragon emerge from a muddy river. Ah, that is why. Right. This is why we, the Nanman Beast Palace, made a shrine for the Plum Blossom Sword Saint and offered ancestral rites to him every year. If we don't show him grace despite all that he did for us, we would be worse than bugs. He was someone who loved our Yunnan so much. How can we ever forget that? Hearing those words, Chung Yang felt warm inside. I have no idea what you are saying. If there was a fight, he fought. If there were demonic sect people, he would run after them and stop them. What did he say? I saved Yunnan. November, L. B. J. N. N. Right, if you say I did it, I must have. There was some misunderstanding, but he didn't feel the urge to correct it. Even when he was defending Yunnan alone, the people of the Central Plains asked him to come back to Sichuan. The eyes of the Palace Lord were constantly changing as they became emotional while reiterating the story. The Mount-Hua disciples, on the other hand, were very excited. Ah, that happened. As expected from the Plum Blossom Sword Saint. Only Chung Yang titled his head. What was that? He never did that. Ah. Taoist Hyung. Those bastards have appeared in Sichuan. Let's go. Let's go and break their heads. But the commander is telling us not to go. Is that so? Then we definitely need to go. Who is he to give us orders to not fight them? Let's go. Yes. Ah. Was it that one time? Hoo. As expected, people used their minds in the kindest way. He. The Palace Lord smiled and continued. Of course, he is respected as a saint, but he is also someone who needs to be respected as a warrior. He ascended the heights of the sky and made the evil bastards tremble at the mention of his name. His achievements are so dazzling that they cannot be put into words. Ahem. Bak Chon turned and looked at Chung Yang once again. The Plum Blossom Sword Saint. Kayak. He is dazzling. My. We should never forget the grace he showed us. Oh. This is insane. No, he had always been insane, but now he is totally gone. Every time the Palace Lord praised the Plum Blossom Sword Saint, this bastard would twist his body and make weird noises. So how can I not treat the descendants of that great man kindly? You are the only ones from the Central Plains who are treated as guests in Yunnan. So, rest and enjoy yourself. Yunnan welcomes you. The man shouted loudly. What are you waiting for? Eat and drink and enjoy yourself. You are all precious people who have come to us. Yes, my lord. Seeing the place turn noisy, Chung Yang smiled warmly. There is someone who knows of my greatness. This is why people should live a good life. Right, sect leader Sehyung. He. Chapter 223. How come you don't know that? 2. The thoughts of the Mount Hua disciples. The Plum Blossom Sword Saint. He is so great. Of course, that man is the pride of Mount Hua. But it is only within Mount Hua that he is so famous. In other places he isn't regarded highly. Even when we met the Wudang sect disciples, hadn't they joked around saying that Wudang was the best? Mount Hua's pride. And that person was being recognized as the pride of Yunnan. Bak Chan reached out, grabbed his glass and gulped it down. Ha! Its fragrance spread through his mouth and his mind felt relaxed. It was difficult to suppress the pride that was rising up his chest. When had Mount Hua ever been recognized this much? Bak Chan was a disciple of Mount Hua after all. How could he not feel happy when his ancestor was being recognized this much? But calm down. People make mistakes when they feel extremely happy. This was the Nanman Beast Palace. No matter how friendly they were now, things could always change. Then, it was the moment when Bak Chan tried to speak. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Kuak. Let's drink some more. Chung Yang was chugging down the peach extract. Bak Chion's face darkened. In front of the palace lord. He was acting like this in front of the palace lord. Kayak. The Plum Blossom Sword Saint. He is so great. Of course, that man is the pride of Mount Hua. But it is only within Mount Hua that he is so famous. In other places he isn't regarded highly. Even when we met the Wudang sect disciples, hadn't they joked around saying that Wudang was the best? Mount Hua's pride. And that person was being recognized as the pride of Yunnan. Bak Chan reached out, grabbed his glass and gulped it down. Ha! Its fragrance spread through his mouth and his mind felt relaxed. It was difficult to suppress the pride that was rising up his chest. When had Mount Hua ever been recognized this much? Bak Chan was a disciple of Mount Hua after all. How could he not feel happy when his ancestor was being recognized this much? But calm down. People make mistakes when they feel extremely happy. This was the Nanman Beast Palace. No matter how friendly they were now, things could always change. Then, it was the moment when Bak Chan tried to speak. Gulp, gulp, gulp. Kuak. Let's drink some more. Chung Yang was chugging down the peach extract. Bak Chion's face darkened. In front of the palace lord. He was acting like this in front of the palace lord. Kayak. This side dish is delicious. I think I might get drunk today. Kuhaha. Hot-blooded young man. I like you. Have as much as you want. You. Bring out more extract. More and more. Don't hold back. My lord. He spoke in a way that a mere servant couldn't dare say anything back, but the servant still tried his best. We brought out all the extract in the warehouse. Ah. Then bring the ones from the treasury too. There must be 2 more boxes in here. Tea that is for the palace lord's grandson's wedding. You idiot. Kwang. Palace lord slammed the table. The table rose into the air and fell back down. In the meantime, Chung Yang grabbed onto the bottles to make sure none of them spilled or broke. Bak Chan, who saw that, sighed, and closed his eyes. He wasn't sure if he was supposed to admire the tenacity of the table which flew into the air and withstood the abuse of the palace lord. No, more than that, he admired the feat of the drunk bastard holding onto all the bottles without spilling anything. The descendants of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint have come, and you are talking about some marriage. But. What? His eyes looked red. You idiot. Don't we make an offering to the shrine of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint every year? Yes, he is our hero and saint. Ads by Pub Future. And if we don't treat these people wholeheartedly, what would he say to us when we meet in the afterlife? Shouldn't we hear something nice when we meet? Ah. Chung Yang nodded his head. Only he knew that they weren't treating the descendants of Plum Blossom Sword Saint, but the Plum Blossom Sword Saint himself. Sure, things were a little strange, but what about it? It was better to treat him than his descendants, right? And if the palace lord died and came to find out about who Chung Yang really was, he would feel even prouder. Now go and bring it, right now. Yes, palace lord. In the end, the servant couldn't win, and the palace lord laughed. It must have been unsightly. Ugh. It was. But you were amazing. Ha. Is that so? Ha ha ha. You, the more we talk the more I like you. Me too, I like the Palace Lord too. Let's have a drink. Chung Yang held the bottle and handed it to the Palace Lord. And then he picked up a full bottle. Oh. A full bottle. Right, right. A man has to be able to hold his alcohol. You certainly know how to hold your drink. Ah. I am well versed in all kinds of Tao too. N-O, vel, B, in .c, What? Ha ha ha. Right. Good. Where else can we see a Taoist drink? Then, they both began to drink at the same time. The disciples of Mount Hua couldn't smile nor cry at this sight. They just kept watching it dumbfoundedly. Am I seeing things right? It looks like an interaction between old friends. Then, they both began to drink at the same time. The disciples of Mount Hua couldn't smile nor cry at this sight. The disciples of Mount Hua couldn't smile nor cry at this sight. They just kept watching it dumbfoundedly. Am I seeing things right? It looks like an interaction between old friends who were separated and then reunited after a long time. This bastard should have been born in Yunnan. Unable to continue seeing the two drink and laugh, Bak Chon spoke. But Palace Lord. The man turned to him. Bak Chon was a bit startled by his huge eyes, along with the imposing size of his body and the rough breathing. Nevertheless, he continued. Was everything you said really true? About the Plum Blossom Sword Saint? Yes, Palace Lord. Is a disciple of Mount Hua really asking me that? Ah. Don't be angry. Ah. Right. Right. He. The Palace Lord laughed again. Of course. I haven't seen him in action. But whatever I've told you now is known not just to the former Palace Lord, but the whole of Yunnan. Bak Chon titled his head. But if the Plum Blossom Saint was really as great as the Lord says, why is this rarely talked about in our place? Puck. The man smashed the bottle he was holding. And the disciples all flinched. Regardless of whether it was his actions, his words, or anything he did, their hearts would race every time he did something. The man shouted. His roaring voice made their ears hurt all over again. Because those damned moths made it that way. The man pounded his chest, indicating his displeasure. History is only written when people talk about it. History doesn't just tell us what happened. It only becomes history when what happened is actually reported. His emotions could be clearly understood. He looked at Bak Chon with a face of regret. Ads by Pub Future. I heard that the situation on Mount Hua isn't good. Normally, Mount Hua should have told you. Fortunately, we have ancestors who did a good job speaking about what happened. However, Mount Hua lost its name, its fame, and even the people within it, which in turn made it lose the power to speak about it. The Beast Palace Lord grabbed the wine and opened the lid as he gulped it down. So, it wasn't talked about. History belongs to winners. If there is no winner to speak the truth, then the next one will take the credit. If the Central Plains and Yunnan hadn't cut ties with each other, this would have never happened. It is all because of those bastards in the Central Plains. Those fucking bastards who live off the dead. Excuse me. Sorry, but we are from there too. But I don't want to say it because I shake at the sight of you. Right now, the Palace Lord was angry on behalf of Mount Hua. It isn't just that. It is a debt. It was obvious to Chung Myung that even though he played a significant role in the war and finally made the incredible contribution in killing the Heavenly Demon, the Central Plains didn't leave the already ruined Mount Hua alone. Normally it was impossible for the sects to negotiate and turn away from the person they were indebted to. But since there was no one of importance in Mount Hua who had survived the war after the main task was done, the debt wasn't immediately enforced. So, an agreement would have been made to get rid of the debt itself and make it look like they owed nothing to Mount Hua. The world is still the same as ever. But if there was just one person, shouldn't we repay the kindness Mount Hua showed to us? If just one said person had said that, things would have been different. But such a person didn't exist. Chung Myung smiled. But what could you expect? Kango has always been ruthless. Those who knew that would realize that having a shrine for him was unusual. With a bitter smile, the Palace Lord spoke. The war took away so much. If the Plum Blossom Sword Saint hadn't been taken away during the war, the history of Kango would have proudly recognized Mount Hua. The man went so far, but Mount Hua didn't receive what it deserved. Bak Chon closed his eyes. Once again, he could see how great the existence of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint. Once again, he could see how great the existence of the plum blossom sword saint meant to Mount Hua. He never realized how great the He never realized how great the ancestors of Mount Hua were. Shouldn't we repay the kindness Mount Hua showed to us? If just one said person had said that, things would have been different. But such a person didn't exist. Chang Nyang smiled. But what could you expect? Kango has always been ruthless. Those who knew that would realize that having a shrine for him was unusual. With a bitter smile, the palace lord spoke. The war took away so much. If the Plum Blossom Sword Saint hadn't been taken away during the war, the history of Kango would have proudly recognized Mount Hua. That man went so far, but Mount Hua didn't receive what it deserved. Bak Chon closed his eyes. Once again, he could see how great the existence of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint meant to Mount Hua. He never realized how great the ancestors of Mount Hua were. And that forgotten history was welcoming them in a distant land in Yunnan. Both the Nanmen Beast Palace and Mount Hua lost too much in the war. And we are still trying to heal our wounds from then. The man filled his cup and then filled the cups of the disciples. Have it. This is the alcohol given to you as a person in a similar situation. It isn't a drink given by the palace lord, but a drink given by a colleague who shares the same heartbreaking history. The disciples who received it held the glass with both hands. The disciples who received it held the glass with both hands and gulped it. They looked at the empty cups. They looked at the empty cups for a second in thought, and the man continued. The world is heartless. The world is heartless. You must have been through a lot. And not at all. Ah. Chang Nyang spoke as he gulped the drink. Quick. His bottle was placed on the table with a thud. It is weirder to think you'll be rewarded for all the work that you've done in a place like Kango. It wouldn't have been like this if those bastards had been rewarded something. Yeah. Those bastards are our ancestors. Yeah, them. Yeah, idiot. Ah, fine. Chung Myung scratched his head. I cannot tell them that I am the bastard. Then what should I call myself? Personalized recommendations you can't miss. Personalized recommendations you... Chung Myung smiled and continued talking. Anyway, the past is past. What can we do at this point, screaming about the unfairness of the past? It is already over. The important thing is the present. We just need to make sure that the current Mount Hua is the best. Then, in time, our past will have to be recognized. History belongs to the winners, after all. The palace lord looked at Chung Myung and he smiled. Yes, that is it. With a low voice, he reached out and patted Chung Myung on the back. Ha 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 ha. The more I listen to you, the more I like your words. You are indeed the descendants of the Plum Blossom Sword Saint. That single gesture of his didn't simply praise the Plum Blossom Sword Saint, but was infinitely close to sending the man back into the underworld all over again. Chung Myung even thought that his body had been made this strong so that he could survive the touch of this man. Ah, right. The palace lord looked at Chung Myung again and asked. But I forgot to ask. Why did you come all the way to Yunnan? Getting here from Shaanxi couldn't have been an easy journey. Ah, right. I was meaning to tell you. Is there anything called the purple wood grass here? Purple wood grass? The man titled his head. It is my first time hearing about this. You are sure about that? Chung Myung frowned. If this man didn't know of it, then they had a problem. Don't look at me like that. I am the lord of the Beast Palace, but I cannot know everything in Yunnan. Besides, I am not the kind to care about such things. Ah, right. There is no way someone interested in building such huge muscles could show interest in grass. Don't worry. I will have my subordinates find it right away. Quack. Good. Ha ha ha. The Plum Blossom Sword Saint descendants have come, so how can we not at least do that? Stop worrying and drink more. Today is a good day. Ha ha ha. Come on. Chung Myung and the palace lord lifted the bottles once again and began to gulp it down. Seeing the resemblance, Bak Chon sighed again. I heard there is always one person who resembles another. Of course, it wasn't exactly the same, but he never imagined he would see someone else. Of course, it wasn't exactly the same, but he never imagined he would see someone else even remotely resembling Chung Myung. Well, at least things were going great thanks to him. Quack. The young disciple has a strong body. Even the palace lord has a strong body. What? Ha ha. The palace lord held the bottle again. Come on. Let's end this today. Ah. Won't you be embarrassed to lose in front of your subordinates? I never lose when it comes to alcohol. It is the same with me. Drink. Yes. And the drinks began to vanish extremely quickly. The disciples of Mount Hua also finally eased up and began to drink in peace. It wasn't polite when they were the guests here to constantly refuse their host. So, the Plum Blossom Sword Saint. Kyork. But the disciples of Mount Hua couldn't participate in the conversation at all. Chapter 224. How come you don't know that? 3. I drank too much. Jogul lifted his head and looked up at the sky. It was late into the night, so the sun would soon rise. The feast hosted by the Beast Palace Lord went on until late in the morning. To be precise, it was the betting match between the Palace Lord and Chung Myung that extended until dawn. Who won? How can I even know? Unwilling. Ogul lifted his head and looked up at the sky. It was late into the night, so the sun would soon rise. The feast hosted by the Beast Palace Lord went on until late in the morning. To be precise, it was the betting match between the palace lord and Chung Myung that extended until dawn. Who won? How can I even know? Unwilling to drink anymore, the rest of the disciples left the two of them and went back to the rooms. The disciples of Mount Hua decided to unpack their luggage in the rooms assigned by the beast palace attendants, who were leading their weary bodies. Kuak. It would be better if you didn't wake me up till lunchtime. He must have had a lot to drink. After washing his face at the well and wiping it off, Jo-gul staggered to his room. Inside, Yoon Jong was cleaning his bed and then proceeded to open the window and look out the room. Won't you sleep, Se-hyung? I will. Yoon Jong turned away from Jo-gul after a light reply. Do you have any concerns? Rather than concerns. Yoon Jong smiled. It was ridiculous to even ask if he had any concerns after coming all this way to Yunnan and entering the Nanman Beast Palace. No matter how much they were welcomed, this was a place where they couldn't relax. However, Yoon Jong knew why Jo-gul was asking him this question. Gul. Yes, Se-hyung. I am sorry. It is because of me. What are you talking about? Se-hyung. Jo-gul was shocked. Aren't we past all that? The things we went through before, everyone would have died because of me. Yoon Jong's face went stiff. If something had really gone wrong, Chung Myung would have solved it. That is the problem. Yoon Jong shook his head. Because Chung Myung was there, we got out of that situation. We might have thought it all worked out. We should be of help to him, not a burden. But in the end, I became a burden, right? Se-hyung. I was stupid. I will never do that again. I'm sorry. No, Se-hyung. Jo-gul sighed. His heart knew that no matter what he said, Yoon Jong wouldn't feel right. But why did you do that? It was my first time seeing Se-hyung like that. Ta. Yoon Jong bit his lip. He looked like he was deeply thinking about something and took a deep breath. Did you know that I was an orphan? Yes, I've heard about it. Then you know I was a beggar, right? Jo-gul was shocked. Yoon Jong looked at him and calmly continued. Since I could remember, it had been just my mother and me. I had no relatives or acquaintances. So, after my mother died, I had no choice but to become a beggar. Se-hyung. It's still pretty vivid to me. On that cold winter day, when I was dying on the street with no one to help me, what is funnier was that at that time, I suffered more from hunger than the cold. I hadn't eaten for more than 10 days, so I would have even killed people for food. If it wasn't for me being a kid, I would have turned into a thief or maybe even a murderer. Jo-gul went silent. This was his first time hearing about Yoon Jong's past. And it was his first time listening to Yoon Jong speak this freely instead of following the duty of a Se-hyung. If an elder passing by hadn't saved me, I would have died on that road. Mount Hua is my benefactor. I was raised from a young beggar who was dying on the street to the man I am today by Mount Hua. Yoon Jong shut his eyes. Ads by Pub Future. It was unclear whether he was trying to remember the past or organize his thoughts. Jo-gul didn't interfere and waited for Yoon Jong to speak. Since then, whenever I see people starving, it reminds me of my past. Maybe it is because I know how hard and painful it is I cannot help myself. The feeling of pain from the hunger that threatens to kill you. I understand, Se-hyung. You understand? Yes, Se-hyung. You understand, even if my actions brought you so close to death. Would you have been able to tell me that you understood if we had met after our deaths? Se-hyung. Yoon Jong spoke firmly. It was a stupid thing to do. Helping people who I knew nothing about, especially when the safety of my Sasuks and Sajays was dependent on me. There was deep regret on Yoon Jong's face. Because of him, things had gone wrong, and he felt that he couldn't face them at all. Yoon Jong licked his lips. As soon as I get back to Mount Hua, I will ask the elders to punish me. I will get back the plum blossom sword again, but what excuses can I make after what I have done? Jo-gul heard the man speak with a dreadful voice and waved his hand. Se-hyung. Even if I didn't know what you were talking about, I'm sure that they wouldn't punish you for selling the sword. Why? Well, the plum blossom sword is the sword of Mount Hua, but it isn't a holy object of Mount Hua. Jo-gul cleared his voice. If Chung Myung heard you, he would have said something like this. What? Punishment. Depressed. If you think the sword is a holy thing, then the robes with plum blossom should be holy things too, right? If we put plum blossoms on an alcohol bottle, Would that be a holy thing as well? Joe Gul looked at Yoon Jong and smiled. None of those things matter. What is important is how Sehyung thinks about Mount Hua. Yoon Jong smiled bitterly. It wasn't because he was convinced by Joe Gul's words, but because he understood what he was trying to say. Wouldn't Changyang say that? It isn't about us making mistakes, but our ability to learn from them. And hasn't Sehyung learned anything? Yes. I've learned. Then it all worked out, right? Yoon Jong sighed and closed his eyes. Are you okay? Open your eyes. Elder. He remembered the sight of Hyun Sang holding him. He remembered the warmth he felt. Sorry. Stop thinking about it and just sleep. There is a lot of work to do. Just think about finding the grass and returning back to Mount Hua. Right. Yoon Jong nodded his head. He lay on the bed, closed his eyes, and tried to sleep. But it wasn't easy. Suddenly, he heard a voice. Sehyung. What Sehyung did was wrong. Right. Still. I like Sehyung because you are such a person. Sleep now. The room turned quiet. Yoon Jong shut his eyes tightly. But he couldn't sleep until the morning. Alive. Seems to be dead. No, he seems to be breathing. The disciples of Mount Hua gathered around Chung Myung and watched him sleep. Joe Gul stabbed him with a stick he had picked up earlier. Dead. Must have died. If he was alive after having this much, he wouldn't be human. There is a limit to how much food and alcohol a person's stomach can fit inside it. Does it make sense for a single person to eat and drink so much? I heard that the man was saving it for a wedding. Alcoholic. Cook. Personalized recommendations you can't miss. As Joe Gul stabbed Chung Myung again, he wobbled in his sleep. He is alive. He never follows the path of the Tao and even took the Palace Lord down with him. So, who won? It was then. A terrible groan came from the mouth of Chung Myung, who was lying face down. I won. Sleep. You did well. Right, yes. You can die now that you've won. I'm not dead. Chung Myung got up very slowly and sat straight. See cold water. Our sect has to be top class. A Sasuk offering a Sajal water. Bak Chon held out the cold water he had prepared in advance, and Chung Myung drank it without saying another word. Then, he grabbed his head. My head. At this point, just burn away the toxins. You've done that before. If that is the case, then why drink alcohol? Right. You said the same thing before. A sigh escaped from Bak Cheon's mouth. There was no way he could scold this man when he was looking this gloomy. But you did a good job. The best way to build a friendship was through drinking. And the position of the Palace Lord was absolute in Yunnan. I do not know if he drank with that intention or if it was purely for the purpose of enjoying it, but in any case, it is certain Chung Myung was now friends with the Palace Lord. It hurts. Chung Myung shook his head a couple times, and a guard of the palace rushed inside. Are you awake? It was a completely different attitude from yesterday. The guard was polite and bowing to them. It was natural, now that they were guests who had been recognized by the Lord. Yes. The Lord is looking for you. What? Chung Myung asked. Already so alert. Weren't you drunk a moment? Weren't you drunk a moment ago? Bak Cheon's lips twitched. I think Chung Myung lost. It couldn't be. Loser. Bak Chon smiled and followed the man. He had lived this long and could now witness Chung Myung lose. Life looked a little fun for Bak Chon now. It cannot be. Bak Cheon's happy eyes changed in a fraction of a second when he saw the Palace Lord. Sitting in front of them in a giant chair and with a tiger skin draped around his body was the vigilant Palace Lord. No, he wasn't vigilant anymore. Kuak. How much did those two drink? The man looked like he would need the heavens themselves to come down and support him if he wanted to walk. His eyes looked dark and emotionless, and his cheeks looked like he had a disease that sucked them in. He groaned and managed to speak. Already so alert. Weren't you drunk a moment ago? Bak Cheon's lips twitched. I think Chung Myung lost. It couldn't be. Loser. Bak Chon smiled and followed the man. He had lived this long and could now witness Chung Myung lose. Life looked a little fun for Bak Chon now. It cannot be. Bak Cheon's happy eyes changed in a fraction of a second when he saw the palace lord. Sitting in front of them in a giant chair and with a tiger skin draped around his body was the vigilant palace lord. No, he wasn't vigilant anymore. Kuak. How much did those two drink? The man looked like he would need the heavens themselves to come down and support him if he wanted to walk. His eyes looked dark and emotionless, and his cheeks looked like he had a disease that sucked them in. He groaned and managed to speak. Are you fine? Ha ha. I am fine. Today too, I will drink UK. Drink UHK. The disciples of Mount Hua rushed to Chung Myung and covered his mouth. Don't puke, you idiot. Where do you He groaned and managed to speak. Are you fine? Ha ha. I am fine. Today too, I will drink UK. Drink UHK. The disciples of Mount Hua rushed to Chung Myung and covered his mouth. Don't puke, you idiot. Where do you think this is? Hold back. Bucket. Get us a bucket. The palace lord looked at that and smiled. Personalized recommendations you can't miss. Right. You cannot be fine after all that whack. Palace lord. You cannot puke again. Here. Here. It was a mess. Unable to bear it any longer, one guard shouted. If you feel unwell, control your body. What? You idiot. If that is the case, why would I drink alcohol? Bak Chon, who heard it, smiled. I feel like I've heard that somewhere. Am I mistaken? Has to be it, Sasuk. Both participants of the bet were struggling to even move. They wiped their lips as they looked up at each other. If this is the case. A draw. The match between the two last night had been settled because they had run out of alcohol. They decided that they would have to reach a conclusion the next day, because neither of them wanted to lose to the other. That is great. You. The disciples of Mount Hua laughed as they saw the two dreadful-looking men giving each other a thumbs up. They get along well. They get along well. There seems to be something in common between them. This is horrible. Those were their thoughts. The life of the palace lord couldn't have been very happy either. Seeing that the lord was also similar to their brother. Seeing that the lord was also similar to their brat, they felt a kind of sympathy and compassion for the scary man. But why summon us in the morning? Ah, right. The palace lord set the bucket aside and said, The grass you were asking about. Yes. It seems that the guy the first asked to help had inquired about it to the merchants, and one of them has come through with some information. Ah, that was quick. Hoo. The people of Yunnan are quick and accurate. Watching the two of them laugh, the disciples sighed again. Anyone who saw the scene would think that the two of them had known each other for 20 years. Fortunately, after a while, the door opened, and a merchant came in. I greet the Lord, the son of Yunnan. Get rid of all the pretentiousness. You know of the purple wood grass. You know of the purple wood grass. The man didn't even give the merchant time to speak. The merchant, who was already familiar with the Lord's behavior, immediately brought up the topic in question. The purple wood grass is what it is called in the Central Plains. In Yunnan, we call it the divine spirit grass. What? His voice was loud. Did you say the divine spirit grass? Yes. You said they're here to find the divine spirit grass. The palace lord's eyes widened. The force his voice had lacked returned right away. No, what is this? Is that something amazing? Chang Yang, not liking the Lord's reaction, asked. No, it isn't amazing. Okay. Hadn't they said that it was an item that used to reach the Central Plains in the past? If it was a great item, then such a trade wouldn't have happened. But the Palace Lord had a troubled face. He scratched his head and said, Ah, what does this mean? Is there some problem? At Chang Yang's question, the Palace Lord sighed. The things have to get this messed up first of all. The purple wood grass you spoke of definitely exists in Yunnan. But the Palace Lord shook his head. No. Simply saying this wouldn't help you. Follow me. I will guide you to the place where the divine spirit grass is. The Lord jumped up from his seat. Seeing that large man move gave them trust. Follow me, Wook. Wuck. Bucket. Bucket. Wuak. And that trust disappeared right away. In no time. Chapter 225. How come you don't know that? 4. Hark. Hark. Looking at the marten with its hair standing up in front of him, Chang Yang smiled. Sit down. Tap. The animal that had been trying to threaten them with its hair up, put its butt on the floor as soon as he said those words. Come here. Shush. TCH. He held the marten in one hand and it began to move. He held the marten in one hand and it began to move immediately. It wiggled its front paws and twisted its body repeatedly. Then the marten turned its body and showed its stomach to Chang Yang. This image of the creature looked a lot cuter now. I feel bad for it. Can't it see that Chung Myung is like a grim reaper? It must be desperate to live right. But to others, the sight looked depressing. At the same time, the palace lord, who was busy puking, calmed himself and said, Weird. Our back usually does not like foreigners. 1. Back. It is the name of the marten. It is from the word Bak Jun. Point 2. Bak Chon. Bak Jun. Bak Chon. Thanks a lot, you crazy bastard. Bak Cheon's face turned red. It doesn't like to follow other people and is quite a ferocious guy. Ah, right. It has to be. And our back is very picky with people too. Sometimes I don't understand why it acts the way it does. Kuak, you know it quite well. Yoon Jong and Jo Gul grabbed the hands of Bak Chon, who was trembling now. If it hadn't been for them, Bak Chon would have jumped Chung Myung by now. Calm down, Sasuk. Isn't Sasuk the one who said that we needed to get this done? Ugh. Bak Chon shook his body loose. It isn't the palace lord that I want to fight. That bastard there is my target. That bastard is bringing in a marten and is scoffing at other people. Chung Myung grabbed Bak Jun by the neck and put it on the ground. Bak Jun, who glanced at him, slowly moved away. The Beast Palace Lord was genuinely admiring it. Hee. The animals of the Beast Palace are all good children. It is said that animals can recognize the goodness in people. Looking at what just happened, you seem to be a good person. Well, I am a Taoist. The mouths of the Mount-Hua-sect's disciples went wide as they heard those words. Weren't they right to be surprised at the shamelessness of Chung Myung, who claimed to be a Taoist? Or even at the Beast Palace Lord, who was coolly accepting it? Anyway, both of them are weird. I want to go home. But do you really need to raise something that has such a temper and doesn't even listen well to you? That That may be right, but he is a good one among the spirit creatures here. Even a tiger wouldn't walk in front of it. That sounds impossible. Sometimes size isn't everything. The palace lord had said something misleading, considering his own size. Now the disciples of Mount Hua titled their heads at the gigantic man. Enough, let's go. Yes. Chung Myung, who was following them until then, turned back and then shouted. Ads by Pub Future. Let's go, back. You bastard. Be patient, Sasuk. He isn't talking about Sasuk. Ugh. Bak Chon groaned, not liking anything about the whole situation, and followed the palace lord quietly. Actually, even if the others hadn't stopped him, what could he do in front of the Beast Palace Lord? That made him even angrier. As they crossed the square courtyard, the guards rushed and bowed their heads as they saw the lord. My lord. Lord, where are you heading? The Beast Palace Lord proudly said. The Divine Pond. Die Divine Pond. The eyes of the shocked guards shifted to the disciples of Mount Hua following their lord. Bak Cheon's expression went stiff as he saw that. It doesn't seem like the Divine Pond is a normal place. It doesn't seem like the Divine Pond is a normal place. Isn't that why they're looking at us like that? If it is a place where outsiders aren't allowed. If it is a place where outsiders aren't allowed. Did the guests commit some kind of big mistake? To take them to the Divine Pond? What? All of the guards seemed curious and doubtful. The disciples of Mount Hua didn't turn away and looked at them, wondering what their looks meant. The Beast Palace Lord cried out in anger. Some mistake. Is that the only reason to take people there? But, my lord, the divine. Do I not know that? When he yelled, the guards bowed right away. No, my lord. We were so foolish in our actions. TCH. When the palace lord clicked his tongue, clearly displeased at it, the guards immediately retreated back. Wah. This is so strange. Once again, they saw that the beast palace lord was the ultimate power here. Judging from the looks of the guard, he was of the age of an elder in Mount Hua, yet he couldn't speak up to this man. Of course, Hyun-jong was the sect leader who was favored by the others in his own way, but it was no exaggeration to say that their sect leader couldn't stand in front of this man. Even the Tang family wasn't like this. It wasn't known if this was a feature of the Beast Palace or of Yunnan entirely, but it seemed like here, the Palace Lord had full power. That power exceeded what a sect leader had back in Yunnan. Get out. The Palace Lord stepped forward and the guards retreated. The guards near the front gate opened the gate immediately. Long live our Lord. Please move with caution. Seeing the people bow down so low, Yoon-jong clicked his tongue. It seems like it is true that the Palace Lord is the king of Yunnan. Right. The Nanman Beast Palace must have such a system. Rather, it looks more advanced than what happens in our sects. It was Bak Chon who said that. And a muffled voice was heard. It isn't. Chung Young clasped his hands behind his head and said, I've never heard any report of the Beast Palace Lord being treated like this. On the contrary, I've heard that the rulers here change very often. Then why? That is obvious. Who would want to fight him after seeing those muscles? Bak Chon looked at the back of the Palace Lord. It looked like the man could carry a mountain on his back. No, was that what he was hinting at? It looked like the god of mountains was moving. Thanks to his exposed upper body, each step he took made the muscles in his back and his shoulders twitch. In addition, there was the hasty nature and loud screams that they noticed from the Palace Lord. No. I don't want to die. N-O-vel-B-in.c, Wouldn't we die faster if we just hung our neck? Now they knew why the people were too loyal to this man. Chung Yang looked at the Palace Lord and said, Kuak. Mount Hua should be like this too. You. Don't say weird stuff. Don't ruin my Mount Hua. It would look so good. However, no matter what the disciples of Mount Hua said, Chung Yang seemed impressed with the Palace Lord. Ads by Pub Future. At the sight of Bak Cheon's fellow disciples trembling, his concern for the future of Mount Hua grew greater. Come on. Yes. At the words of the Beast Palace Lord, everyone moved fast. Their footsteps became muffled as they headed into the vast forest behind the palace. This can be called a jungle. It is so dense with trees. We rarely see this around us. It sounds like we need to head through this place to get to the Divine Pond. But what kind of place is it for them to react like that? The Palace Lord who heard it, spoke normally. It is a sacred place in our Beast Palace. What? It is as I said. It is both a sacred and forbidden place. It is considered sacred to us and forbidden for those without access. Usually no one sets foot inside it apart from us. So that's why. But you aren't outsiders. Outsiders have usually heard about this place. What? Bak Chon titled his head. What is this now? As I said, that place is sacred to us, so no one but us can set foot in it. But it doesn't matter even though you people are not of our palace. Don't you normally prevent the outsiders from entering such sacred places? Is there any need to? If we start to prevent entry, then we have to prevent the entry of animals walking around too. But animals and humans are different. They aren't different. The Beast Palace Lord shook his head. In the end, humans are just smarter animals. You people seem to think that we care for the animals and raise them amongst us. I've heard such things. But that is quite wrong. Our palace doesn't care for animals alone. We just don't think that we are much different from them. So, we can live together without problems. Bak Chon nodded in admiration. And if we won't stop animals, we won't stop people either. If we say it is a sacred place, would it be sacred for all? So, it is part of nature. We don't expect others to accept it as a sacred place just because we consider it to be. Then what if it is damaged? What? No matter what the circumstances, he had to overcome it. To do that he needed to get stronger. Only then could Mount Hua become stronger. In the end, it depends on my strength. He had almost finished modifying his body with the martial arts he had been practicing. Now, with his past experiences, he would naturally be able to unfold the martial arts that he had used in the past. But before he could do that, he needed one last thing. Then, Chang Yang sighed and looked at the wooden boxes in front of him. Click. The first box he opened was the large one. See what personalized content we have based on your browsing history. See what personalized content we have based on. Inside it was the soul vitality pill he had forcefully stolen from Hyunjong. Chang Yang looked at it with bright shining eyes. Then he opened the second one. It was smaller than the first one, but it looked more luxurious. Click. As soon as the second wooden box was opened, a stinky smell began to waft through the room. The pill was a black round object with an ominous feel to it. This was part of the Inside it was the soul vitality pill he had forcefully stolen from Hyunjong. Chang Yang looked at it with bright shining eyes. Then he opened the second one. It was smaller than the first one, but it looked more luxurious. Click. As soon as the second wooden box was opened, a stinky smell began to waft through the room. The pill was a black round object with an ominous feel